About 10 years ago, I was working at Torah in New York, and I said to the rabbi there, I feel like I'm working really hard. I'm working tons of hours every single day from morning till late at night, and I'm not accomplishing still what I want to be accomplishing. And he said, maybe the problem isn't that you're not working hard enough. Maybe you need to be working smarter. And this concept of working smarter instead of working harder is something that's been said over and over again, but really planted the first seed in my head 10 years ago when I heard it from this rabbi. And since then, I've been really thinking it over. And there's one real big upshot of this whole thing is that in order to work smarter, one really needs to ask themselves a big question, and maybe the mother of all questions. And the big question is this: what is my priority? Once I figure out what my priority is, then I could be able to have my action list reflect what my priorities are. And if my action list is in line with my priorities, so suddenly I'm working in the most efficient way possible because everything I'm doing is going towards the goal that I want it to go towards. When I first started working at USC, University of Southern California in Los Angeles as a religious director, my first day on the job, or one of my first weeks in training with my boss, she said to me, if you want to make a phone call or design a flyer or build a program or event for students, that's all well and good, but make sure every single time you invest your energy and effort into it, you ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if you can circle back to the fact that you are there in order to connect Jews with their Judaism, then every single piece of investment that you put in is worthwhile. But every single time, question yourself. Every single moment of investment, question yourself. And I really found that to be true. I would ask myself the question, why am I doing this? And as long as the answer continued to be in order to connect Jews with their Judaism, then I knew I was on the right track. But if it started to become about something else, something that I thought maybe would be important, but then I realized on further reflection that it really wasn't, so then I realized I don't need to be doing this right now. This is not the most important thing. Working smarter really means boiling down your actions to the quintessential question of, what is my priority? How do we figure out our priorities? It's really hard to figure out, and we sometimes think we know what our priorities are, but there's a famous quote that says, show me your checkbook and I'll tell you what your values are. And that's really scary to think that when we break down our budget and our time and see how we're investing our resources, we're then going to be able to analyze what our values are, because in truth, it really should be the opposite. We want to figure out our values and then work on the budget of our time and money. So how do we figure out what is our priority, in fact? And I have a really surefire way to figure it out. It's a little unorthodox, but it works. So anytime I'm given a plant, whether it's a vase full of flowers or an orchid or anything at all, I manage to kill it. Or at least I don't let it live, to the point that someone else will take it off my hands sometimes. And it's pretty bad. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and I really read up a lot on it, and I've also picked the brain of people who are experts in gardening, and I still manage to kill everything I get my hands on. The only living species that I seem to not completely mess up is children, which is good because my job and my home life revolve around children. So how is it that I'm able to do this? I have no green thumb. How am I able to maintain keeping these children alive? Thank God. The answer is that children have a built-in alarm system called crying that they express from the moment they're born. Before they can say a word, they can express that they are feeling hungry or tired or dirty or uncomfortable, in pain, you name it. They could express it to you without even speaking a word. And this is a blessing, because without it, we would have no idea what's going on with our child, especially when they're babies. So this built-in alarm system of crying is a way to illuminate what area I need to put my attention towards in that moment. Our bodies also have this alarm system. Our bodies will feel pain, like the nerve endings will feel pain, and then we know, oh, I need to take my hand off this because it's hot, because I'm feeling the pain of it burning me. Or I'm seeing a lot of blood, I must have cut myself and that needs my attention. So our bodies also have mechanisms that show us when they're in pain and when something needs our attention. This negativity, this pain, is actually a real gift because it illuminates the area that needs tons of attention. So in our lives, how do we figure out what lights up the area of our life that needs a lot of attention? The answer is whatever area you're expressing or you feel a negative emotion. So in an area that you feel deep longing, loneliness, a deep sense of lack of fulfillment and a deeper boredom, something that's profoundly upsetting to you, this is an area that needs your attention immediately, and it's a priority. One negative emotion that's a great example of this is jealousy. Jealousy is a really awful emotion and no one wants to feel it, but what is it? It's this feeling of, I really wish I had what the other person has. Now, it is completely destructive when it has something to do with something that we really have no control over and it's completely superficial, like what size house or what kind of car we're driving. So those kinds of things, we have no patience for jealousy. But the place that jealousy can really serve us well is where it has to do with our accomplishments. There's an Olympic runner named Usain Bolt. He is supposedly the fastest man on the planet. He has won gold medals in the Olympics. And I am not jealous of him at all. And he's incredibly accomplished and he's the fastest runner in the world. So the reason I'm not jealous of him is because his calling is in no way connected to my calling, and I have no desire to be like him. So I'm just admiring him and I'm happy for him. I like to watch him, but I don't personally feel any negative emotion of jealousy or wistfulness when I'm looking at him. So the pain also for Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway is another example of someone who is in the history books for being a legendary writer, and I have no personal pain when I think of his accomplishments because I don't feel like my life's mission in any way crosses with his life's mission. Neil Armstrong, he walked the moon. I don't feel in any way that my life's mission is to walk the moon, and I don't feel a deep sense of pain or longing when I think about Neil Armstrong. But there are areas where I do feel a sense of deep longing, and in those areas, it's a wake-up call. I am needing to work on those areas because those are the areas that my life mission is taking me. There's a biblical source for this. In the story of Elkanah, he is a pious man with two wives. One is Peninnah, one is Hannah. And Peninnah is blessed with children, and Hannah is barren. And it brings Hannah a lot of pain. She really wants to have children. And Peninnah spares Hannah no humiliation. She really lays it on thick. She makes Hannah feel horrible, and her intentions supposedly are good. She's making Hannah really feel the pain because she really wants to light a fire underneath her so that Hannah will call out to God and help her and save her from this situation of being barren and bless her with children. So Peninnah's intentions are good, but what she did was wrong, and she really humiliated Hannah. So Hannah's sitting here with this pile of pain of not having children, and what does she do? She goes and prays to God, and not only because of her fervent prayers is she blessed to have a baby boy named Shmuel the prophet, who ends up being a huge tzaddik, righteous person in Jewish history that changes the course of history in a lot of ways for the Jewish people. But she also gives birth to a different revolution, which is the revolution of whispering fervent prayers while swaying in the Amidah prayer, in Shemona Esrei, in one of the longer intimate prayers between us and God. She gives birth to that as well as a person. Her pain, this deep humiliation of desiring to be a mother, gave birth to a human being and a revolution. And the human being that she gave birth to was incredible as well. So pain oftentimes fuels us to become the much greater people than we ever would have become in the first place. The truth is that this alarm system, while it works extremely well, it's obviously better to not wait for the baby to scream in pain. You first want to just see what's going on. So if the opportunity rises where you're able to have quiet reflection or listening to someone else and then having an intuitive thought come in, or just praying yourself, then you can also be able to see your priorities, then that's great. But this is just one method that actually really, really works. Once you actually have what to pray for, you have the priority, you have the deep longing, you know where you need to give your attention to, and now you just need the resources. You need the money, you need the time, you need the energy, you need the confidence, whatever. You need to get over the anxiety, whatever it is that you want to get. So then you need to pray for it. And as long as what we're asking for is within our best interests and to be successful in some way, to build a home, to find a spouse, to have children, to get a good job, these are areas that God wants us to be successful. He wants us to have pleasure in this world. So as long as we are true to our priorities, we will be blessed with what we are asking for. And Rav Noach Weinberg, who wrote the book, What the Angel Taught You, so he says that, imagine a boy who says to his father, or a young man who says to his father, can we sit down? I want to talk. I want to meet with you. I have to ask you a question. And the father says, what do you want? Do you want a loan? You need money? What is it? And the son says, please just meet with me. I need to meet with you. So they meet, and he sits down, and the father says, what's going on? And the son says, as a matter of fact, I need money. I do need a loan. And the father says, I knew it. Okay. He takes out his checkbook. How much do you need? And the guy says, I need 5 cents. I need a nickel. So the father's going to turn to the son and say, what's wrong with you? It's an insult. Of course he's going to give him a nickel. He didn't have to have this whole big parade beforehand. Of course a father is going to give his son a nickel. A nickel is no skin off the father's nose. So too with any resource with Hashem, with God, there's from the perspective of having limitless resources, limitless time and money, that is the area that Hashem is completely endowed with. So of course he's able to give. And nothing is too great. It's all a nickel to God. We do not have the luxury of turning our back on our priorities. There was never a human being in the universe created like us with the same unique contribution that we have, not before us and not after us. And so if we are here and we are breathing on this planet, then we are here for a reason. And that is what we have to remember, that if we don't set these priorities for ourselves, then we don't accomplish what we are set here to accomplish. Sometimes it's very challenging. There's a woman, TRACY McMillan. She gave a TED Talk, which was really inspiring. She's from a very difficult background. She was in 24 foster homes by the age of 9. Her mother was a prostitute and an addict. Her father was in jail for being a pimp and a drug dealer. So she did not have a good childhood. And as soon as she was old enough, what she craved, of course, was a sense of belonging, to be loved. And she thought she was just going to find that by getting married. And so she married the first guy who she thought would be able to love her. And, it didn't work out. And then she married again, and again it didn't work out. And she was married a third time. And this woman ended up realizing she just had this light that lit up because of the emotional pain that she was in, that her priorities were wrong. And the person that she really needed to marry first, the person she needed to direct her energy towards building up, was herself. And as soon as she did that, not only was she able to invest her time better in her marriage, because ultimately the guys that she was marrying, they weren't wrong for her. They were good guys. She was not whole yet. Once she was able to give to herself and prioritize correctly, then she was able to have a positive and successful marriage. And not only that, but in this area that she was challenged, that is the area that she was able then to share with others. She's now a writer and an expert in relationships. She wrote a book called Why You're Not Married Yet. She gave this TED Talk about marriage, and she's made a career out of it. And in this TED Talk, what she says is, in the area that you're experiencing the most challenge, that is the area that you have the most to give. Such a powerful thing to say. In the area that we are most challenged, that is the area that we have the most to give. So when we think of our priorities, we have to really think, in what area am I challenged? Because in this very area, there's something for me here. I don't know what it is, but there's something for me here, and that needs my attention. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed. My prayer for us is that this year, it is clear to us what our priorities are, and then that God should give us the resources to tackle those priorities.